بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We're still going through the first ayah. I'll just recite it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. So we were talking about the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken the Prophet whom he described as a slave in the night journey in a portion of the night from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, which barakna hawlahu, which we have blessed around it. Why? لِنُرِيَهُ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا. And this is so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can show some of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we were just going through some of those signs. We did that. We started this. And so we're going through what the Prophet ﷺ had seen in the Al Isrā and Al Mi'raj. Now, one of the descriptions that the Prophet ﷺ sees is about Isa salam and Dajjal. And this is slightly a side topic, but the Prophet ﷺ once saw Isa salam in Makkah in a dream. So I just want to read that so that we have some background and we know the description of Isa alayhi salam. The Prophet ﷺ says, بينما أنا نائم, while I was sleeping, أطوف بالكعبة, I was doing the Tawāf around the Kaba. The process of doing Tawāf in his dream. He's going around the Kaba, right? You start at the black stone and then you go anti-clockwise. فإذا, and then, رجل Adam, I saw a man, رجل Adam. And Adam literally means brown, right? And in another hadith, so remember this hadith is from Bukhari, number 3441. But in another hadith, another narration also in Bukhari, 3239, he says, إِلَى الْحُمْرَةِ وَالْبَيَاضِ. The Prophet says he is towards red and slightly white. So who is he describing? The Prophet then says, he describes him a bit more, this man. صَبْطُ الشَّعْرِ, his hair is sabt. And sabt means literally quite straight, right? But it's slightly wavy. Yuhada bayna rajulain. So he's leaning on two people next to him while he's doing this tawaf. He's leaning on two people next to him. Yuhada bayna rajulain. Rajulun rab'atun ahmar. In another hadith, the Prophet says that Isa al-Islam he's describing is a rab'ah. And another direction here says he's ahmar, red. So rab'ah means medium height. He's not super tall and he's not short. He's of medium height. So if we think about in today's terms, somebody tall would probably be 6 feet or higher, and somebody short would be close to 5 feet. So somewhere in between those two, 5'6", maybe 5'7", 5'5", something like that will be medium, not considered tall, not considered short, rab'ah. And so here the Prophet is actually describing Isa alayhi salam, okay? The interesting thing, if you ask this question, right? If you look at the pictures in Christian churches or books about Isa alayhi salam, you always see him pictured as taller than those around him to give a commanding presence. But this is actually not the truth. Subhanallah. He's not tall. The Prophet ﷺ has seen him and he's described him as average height, medium height, not tall, not short. That's what that word means, rab'ah. Not tall, not short. And the unusual thing is that in the Bible, you can ask any Christian, say, do you have any physical description of Isa alayhi salam or Musa alayhi salam? Whereas we in Muslims, subhanallah, this shows the great care that Muslims have put into describing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, there are books written about the description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Shama'il, for example. But if you look for descriptions for Isa alayhi salam or Musa alayhi salam, you don't get anything except for this one thing where in the Isa Islam is described as he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. It's a very ordinary person, right? That's the only description. There's no description of his color, of the type of hair, how tall he was. But the Prophet ﷺ, during this Al Isra and Mi'raj, and the events leading up to that, he has seen them and described them to us. SubhanAllah. And the Prophet then describes كَأَنَّمَا خَرَجَ مِن دِمَاسٍ. He's talking about Isa alayhi salam. He says he looks like a man who's come out, kharaja min dimas. What's dimas? Dimas is a place where a person goes to take a bath, and probably quite a hot place. So when you've taken a bath and you come out, you're quite resplendent, at least you're glowing. Or in some other hadith, the Prophet said he is dripping. In this same hadith, it says, يَنْطِفُ رَأْسُهُ مَاءً. His head was dripping as if there's water coming down, or sweating. أَوْ يُهْرَاقُ رَأْسُهُ مَاءً. As if somebody's poured water on him. So just after he's had this shower or something, he's come. فَقُلْتُ, so the Prophet I'm saying in this hadith, مَنْ هَذَا? Who is this? قَالُوا, they said, Ibn Maryam. Or if we read it together, he is, if you compare him to somebody white, he looks slightly brown. But if you compare him to somebody brown, he looks white. Okay? That's how the Prophet described him. His hair is sabt. In other words, it's pretty straight, but slightly wavy. Okay? And he's frailish because he's requiring two people. He's leaning on two people. He's not a big guy, not a super strong person. And his height is average, not high, not tall. Probably in our terms, we'd say 5'6", maybe 5'7", something like that. And the Prophet describes him as if he's come out of a bath and he's sweating. Maybe that's stress, maybe that's, difficulty, or he's just come out of the bath, he's sweating. And then he asks, who is this? And then, in the same hadith, the Prophet sees a second man. Okay? Remember, where is the Prophet ﷺ? The Prophet ﷺ said, Baynama atuf. While the Prophet is in Makkah, right? And he's making Tawāf. What does he see? فَذَهَبْتُ أَلْتَفِتُ. My attention turned. فَإِذَا, suddenly, رَجُلٌ, there was a man, أحمر. Now this man is white. Remember the Arabs called white red. Just like in Native American Indians, they used to call the white man the red man, Jasim. And Prophet describes him as Jasim, big, right? Samin, fat. So remember what this fat means. I have parents, they come to me and they say, my child is thin. And I said, why are you saying they're thin? It's because you're comparing them to the child who looks like this in the school. I said, well, the right thing to do is compare this child, your child, here, to the child who looks like this. And then you'll find out that he is just right. Okay? This child is fat, and this child is thin. So when the Prophet is saying Jasim, he's talking to the Arabs. Okay? So the Arabs were thin, like this. So what we would see as a normal person, to the Arabs who don't see this group of people, they haven't seen these super overweight, heavy people, right? This is Jasim. Normal for us is Jasim for them. So think about that. Ja'dur Ras. His hair is Ja'd. It's quite curly. Okay? Quite curly. A'war aynihi al-yumna. His right eye is blind. كأن عينه عنبة طافية. It's as if it's a grape that's just floating. قلت من هذا؟ قالوا هذا الدجال. This is Dajjal. So subhanAllah, where is the Prophet saying this. The hadith continues. He's saying that he is in Makkah. So it's very confusing. This Dajjal will be seen doing Tawāf, probably trying to convince people that he is Isa bin Maryam, and that's how he's been allowed into Mecca. And then the Prophet says, وَأَقْرَبُ النَّاسِ بِهِ شَبَهًا Ibn Qatan. Ibn Qatan was a famous man from Yemen who died, I think. And the Prophet is saying that he resembles that man. Okay? And even Imam Zuhri, he says, رَجُلٌ مِنْ خُزَاعَةٍ هَلَكَ بِالْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. He died in the time of Jahiliyyah. So they all understood that Dajjal who's going to come is going to be a man. So, but then we have other hadith where the Prophet said that Dajjal's terror will not enter Mecca. So how do we put these hadith together? Let's read the hadith where the Prophet said his terror will not enter Mecca. رواه البخاري عن أبي بكرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this hadith again, all these hadith are either Bukhari or Muslim, right? لا يدخل المدينة رعب المسيح الدجال. The terror of the Masih ad-Dajjal, of the Dajjal, will not enter Medina. لها يومئذ سبعة أبواب. On that day, it will have 7 doors. So it will have a very clear, demarcated, it'll be a garrison town almost. على كل باب ملكان. On every door will be 2 angels, okay, guarding the place. In another hadith, again in Bukhari, 1881, the Prophet said, لَيْسَ مِن بَلَدٍ. There is no balad, which means city here. إِلَّا سَيَطَأُهُ الدَّجَّال. Except that he will step into it, Dajjal. In fact, subhanallah, during that time, Ibn Hazm, a scholar who lived a couple of hundred years after the Prophet, he objected to this hadith. He said, no, how is it possible for a man to enter every single city so quickly? It takes ages and weeks to go from one city to the next. But then that actually shows, now we know how you can move around so quickly and rapidly with all these modern transport mechanisms. And this just shows the veracity of the Prophet, subhanAllah. And then the Prophet said, except for 2 cities, إِلَّا Makkah wal Medina, except for Makkah and Medina. لَيْسَ لَهُ مِن نِقَابِهَا نَقْبٌ. There is no root that comes into it. And the word naqbun is a very interesting word, but I will not go into that now. لَيْسَ لَهَا نِقَابٌ مِن نَقْبٍ إِلَّا عَلَيْهَا الْمَلَائِكَةُ الصَّافِّينَ. Except it has angels in rows, arranged in rows. يَحْرُسُونَهَا, guarding it. ثُمَّ تَرْجُفُ الْمَدِينَةِ, and then Medina will shake. بِأَهْلِهَا ثَلَاثَ رَجَفَاتٍ. It will shake, i.e. have an earthquake with 3 earthquakes. فَيُخْرِجُ اللَّهُ, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove from Medina. Now listen carefully what the hadith says. كُلُّ كَافِرٍ وَمُنَافِقٍ. Every disbeliever and munafiq. So you can imagine, if the Prophet saying the disbelievers are going to come out of Medina at that time, that means they must have come into Medina before, right? So we are seeing these events happening right now, and the disbelievers are being allowed back into Medina, subhanAllah. So we must be very close to the end of time. Allah knows best. So how do we explain that in one hadith the Prophet saying that Dajjal can't come to Makkah or Medina, and another hadith he saw him doing Tawāf? So this is, Dajjal, as you know, is a very confusing thing, but the explanation is that at the time before he becomes Dajjal, before he goes into this state where he will get all these kind of superpowers, that he will be there. Or that it was a dream, and the dreams of the Prophet ﷺ should be interpreted as a dream and not to be seen as reality. So there are 2 explanations for that. So this is, again, some of the things that the Prophet ﷺ has seen. And one of the things, he does see Dajjal during the Al Isrā wal Mi'raj, which is why I brought that hadith up there, just to show you a description and make it clear. So if tomorrow, la samahallahu dhalik, may we not live to see that time, because it's a time of great fitna, But you should be aware of the height of Isa alayhi salam. So Isa alayhi salam is a medium height person, whereas Dajjal is a big person. Dajjal is more white. Isa alayhi salam compared to him will be slightly more brown. The Dajjal's hair is curly. Isa alayhi salam's hair is straight. Dajjal has a problem with his right eye. Isa alayhi salam, no such description was given. But Isa alayhi salam is quite, in a sense, some likely frail because he needs help to do tawaf. Whereas Dajjal is big, a big guy, right? He doesn't really need anybody to help him. So this is how you'll distinguish on their descriptions Isa alayhi salam versus Dajjal. So I'll end there today, and we'll stop there.